Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fold Space Live. It's so good to be back here on the airwaves. Let me know if you can hear me okay in the chat. And I'm going to be, of course, multitasking here, trying to keep an eye on people who are sending messages. And please let me know if you are experiencing any sort of technical difficulties on your end. But I am just going to wait for maybe one person just to kind of chime in. Thank you, Peter. Peter says loud and clear. Okay, what a relief. My goodness. It's been a while since I've done this. Well over a year, probably a year and a half. I think my last broadcast was my live show with Taro Kawasaki, my buddy in New York City, which I highly recommend you go watch on my YouTube page if you haven't already. Speaking of which, but I just want to go ahead and say this now to get this out of the way so I don't forget. I am trying to build up my number of YouTube subscribers. I'm trying to hit 1,000, and I'm about a fourth of the way there. So if you haven't already and you're on YouTube, please do subscribe to my channel. And by the way, here, I'm just going to pull this up here. So you can find me on YouTube. A lot of you are probably already here on YouTube just by searching for Fold Space Origami Studio. While we're here, you can find me on Instagram at Mr.JamesPeak, and then Fold Space is at Fold Space Origami. And I would also encourage you to join my email list if you haven't already, which you can do so at foldspacestudio.com. And if you scroll to the bottom of the page at foldspacestudio.com, there's a widget at the bottom of the screen where you can subscribe to my email list. And that is the best way to stay in touch with all of the happenings. I say all of the happenings. I mean, there haven't been many happenings here online for quite some time, I know. But I'm getting back into it, and I'm so pumped up to be back here. I just want to say I went to the Pacific Coast Origami Conference last weekend in San Francisco. Had a blast. So fun, so great to reconnect with so many of my origami friends in the community. I made a lot of new friends as well. And one of the best parts is I had so many people come up to me and say, James, when are you going to do another virtual class? Or we attended the Fold Space Origami Convention in 2020. We loved it so much. When are you going to do another one? I mean, I just want to thank you all. I had so much positive feedback come from the people I talked to who participated in my convention, other online classes, and it really kind of lit a fire for me. And so I've got a lot of cool stuff in store for you. And at the end of today's class, I'm going to announce what the next live stream is. Yes, indeed, I do have something planned for that. But again, if you just join my email list or subscribe to the YouTube channel, that's a really great way just to stay informed of what's coming up. So, all right, I just want to say hi to some of the people here in the chat. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Peter, hey Kay. Kay was in San Francisco. Diane, oh my goodness. Diane has kind of been here with my live streams from the beginning. That's so cool. And Gwen, Karen, Paul. Oh wow, this is so cool. Oh, Hisako, oh my gosh, hi. Deb. Hello, Deb. I just saw Deb in San Francisco. And Rebecca. Cool. Karen. I think I might have already said Karen. Julie. And oh my gosh, is that Kathy? Yes, I think it is. Hey, Kathy. Okay, cool. All right. So, the moment you've all been waiting for, right? You've come here to learn this really awesome maple leaf design. I tell you, I have been obsessed with these maple leaves. They're so fun to fold, and there's a lot of nifty maneuvers. We're going to do some weird stuff with the paper, and it might seem a little tricky at first, but trust me, you're in good hands. And I'm going to go nice and slow. Also, I'm sure many of you know, the video for this will remain online. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that you can while watching this live right now, like on YouTube, for example, I'm not sure if you can do this on Facebook, but because I'm broadcasting to multiple places right now, which is also a first for me. But on YouTube, I think you can scrub backwards. So if you're folding and you want to see something again, you can do that, I think, in real time during this class, okay? But like I said, I'm going to try and go nice and slow so that, you know, I don't want to leave anybody behind, and I want everyone to get through this maple leaf model. But I think you're going to really enjoy it. So before we do that, though, I want to give a huge thanks, here, hold on just a second here, okay, to Yuankai Zhang, who designed this maple leaf, this brilliant design, and who also gave me permission to teach this model. Now, Yuankai is a high school student in China, young lad, okay? And so before we fold the model, I kind of wanted to just go ahead and maybe share with you. Okay, hold on a sec. We're going to jump screens here. Give me 1 second. Wait, sorry. Multitasking here. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, here, let me just do one thing real quick here. All right. Thank you for your patience. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. Okay, so I wanted to go check out Yuankai's Instagram feed. And you can find Yuankai on Instagram at YK_Z_Ori, O-R-I. And go give Yuankai a follow. And Yuankai has a lot of designs already. I just want to scroll through some of these real quick. This really, really nice looking lion. There's a lot of fish here. A BB-8. Any Star Wars fans out there? Okay. Another fish. I don't know what species of fish this is. Again, more fish. A lot of really great fish models here. Dinosaur, some kind. More fish. And a pumpkin. Okay. And look at this. Betta fish. Wow. And what beautiful paper was used here. Stunning. Love it. Okay. Cool. All right. So now, I know you've been waiting so patiently. You want to fold this model. But just want to say hi to some more folks out there. Trisha, Edwina, Tim. Oh, wow. Amandine from France. We got somebody tuning in from France. Oh, so great. Cool. Oh, we got someone out in Shaker Heights, too. That's a local. All right. Okay, let's get to it. Now, like I said, I've been folding these obsessively because it has a really nice folding sequence. And it's what I call a model that kind of folds itself. And what I mean by that is that it has a very sort of straightforward folding sequence. So, you know, it's kind of easy to tell where it's going, okay, right? I also just love all of the different lobes on this. And we're actually going to make this out of a bird base. Now, don't fold your bird base just yet, because I do want to say, I want to show you something a little different with the bird base that you may not already know about. Okay, so I do want to just mention that I learned this model from Origami USA's online publication, The Fold. So this appeared pretty recently. I think it was the most recent edition of The Fold, which is one of the publications available to all Origami USA members. And if you are not already a member of Origami USA, I highly recommend you join. They have so many great resources for folders. It's an amazing community from around the world, and they're the ones who host some of the big conventions, the two big conventions here in the United States, including Peacock, Pacific Coast Origami Conference that I just went to last weekend, and then the big convention that happens in New York City every June, okay? So, yeah, please join Origami USA. I also want to give a huge shout out to Ella for helping promote, or USA in general for helping to promote this class on their channel. Greatly appreciate it. You rule. All right, so I think we're ready to jump into it. So let me clear some of these leaves out of the way here. Just going to kind of, I have to say, the fall foliage up here in Northeast Ohio and down through Pennsylvania was stunning this year. I also had the privilege of going to West Virginia a few weekends ago. I presented at an art educators conference. So my partner and I got to drive down to West Virginia, and we couldn't have picked a better time. The colors were stunning. Whew. I mean, I don't know about you, but it just seemed like this was a particularly colorful fall, okay? So here we go. Now I'm going to be using a sheet of kami. This is a 7-inch piece of kami. It's not exactly 7 inches. It's like 17.6 centimeters, metric system. Okay. So we are going to make a bird base, but I want to show you a different way of making a bird base than you might be used to. Okay. And we want to make a bird base that has the white side, or the stem colored side, on the outside of the bird base initially. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the square, and let's take that bottom edge, match it up to the top edge. All right. And for you origami enthusiasts out there, you will all know this as a book fold. So open your books to page 2, class. It's actually a little joke I use with the students that I teach, kids primarily. And it's a funny little joke, but it's also a way to get the paper reoriented so that that book crease that we just made is running vertically. And then what I'll say to my students is, okay, take the bottom edge of your open book and match it up to the top edge of your open book. And this is a way to help avoid any confusion about which two sides we're trying to match up here. Okay. All right, so we've made our 2 book folds. The white side of the paper is showing on the outside of the books. Okay, so we're going to open it up, flip the paper over now to the white side. So those 2 book creases, those are 2 mountain creases now. And we're going to take the bottom point, and we're going to match it up to the top point. Now I know I've got a lot of seasoned folders out there, but in case you're relatively new or maybe brand new to origami, notice that I'm always folding up from the bottom. I'm holding before I fold, and I slide down the middle and go out to the outside. Make a nice sharp crease. And then we're going to rotate the model. So it's like an arrow pointing to one side or another, and then we're going to open up the paper. Okay. And now we'll take this bottom corner so we can match the other 2 corners together. Hold before you fold, slide down the middle, slide out to one side, back to the middle, and slide out to the other side. Cool, yeah, thanks, Brent. It was the latest issue of The Fold that this wonderful design appears in. I will mention, too, the way I'm showing you this is slightly different from how it's diagrammed, but it's pretty similar. It's pretty much the same thing. Okay, so now we've got all of our creases that can be used to collapse the paper into a preliminary base, okay? Now, I don't want you to do that. I'm just going to show you how that works. So, it's like, if you were to pop that in, we could collapse it like that. And then traditionally, people will often make these little kite flaps and then do a petal fold, okay? But I want to show you a different way of putting the creases in for a bird base. And I'm sure some of you know this technique. Once I started doing it, it was hard to kind of go back to the traditional way of doing it, because this way is a bit more accurate than when you do, actually I got an example here too. So like when you do these little kite folds, you're folding through 2 layers of paper, okay? And that can lead to a little bit of inaccuracy, and just for those of you who are already familiar with making a bird base with the petal fold, okay? So what we're going to do instead is we're going to put in some angle bisectors in all of these corners, okay? So here's how this works. We're going to take this raw edge down here. I'm going to do this one first. I'm going to take this bottom edge up, okay? Now, note, we're not going to crease all the way across. We want to only crease until we hit one of these creases that were used for the book folds, okay? So this is what that looks like. We take the raw edge here, we bring it up here, and another nice thing about this technique is that we're lining up the raw edge of the paper with the creased edge, which I think is also a little bit easier to align, which gives us a bit more accuracy, okay? So I'm going to kind of slide that edge up until I think I've got pretty good alignment here, and I'm going to hold before I fold. Yeah, Tricia, I know, I love that too. I learned that from Michael LaFosse, by the way, from taking classes with him. Now, before I actually commit to my crease, what I like to do, I like to kind of like gently kind of run my finger over that corner without actually pressing down all the way, because that kind of helps get the paper in place. And then once we're pretty happy with the alignment, I'm trying to do my best here. Yeah, so we're going to crease from the crease line here out to that corner. Okay, so we only crease this section here. And, ooh, I got my little pencil pointer here. There is a crease line right here. That is our stopping point. Okay? All right. Cool. So we didn't go all the way. We can unfold, and there we go. We've got a valley crease coming from this point and ending at that crease line. Okay. So we can go ahead and do the opposite end here. Same thing. Kind of roll that edge up to the creased edge. And if you make sure it's lined up all the way across, it pretty much guarantees that you'll have alignment at the corner as well. So we've got that lined up. I'm going to kind of run my finger along the corner to get it ready, and then go ahead and crease, stopping at this crease line right here. I know you can't really see it. I could draw on my paper. I'm going to hold off on actually drawing on my paper. I do have a marker until a little bit later. Oh, Peter, good question. Okay, so Peter in the chat asks, am I leaving a small gap to the top edge? No, I'm not. And you don't actually need to, particularly when you use this method, because you kind of automatically get the gap that I think that you were kind of used to seeing. So yeah, and we're not doing like inside reverse folds with the flaps like we would do with the traditional crane, so no need for the gap. But thank you for asking that, Peter. Okay, so I did that on one side. We're going to flip it like a pancake. So I flipped it over side to side, and we're going to do the same thing on these two corners. Take that raw edge up and slide it into place. Make our crease. Going to repeat over here. And I'm going to roll this up here. And there we go. Oh yeah, Hisako. I think she's referring to her favorite origami tool. I love this. I believe this was designed by Jeremy Schaefer. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we got those two creases. Now, we need to, once we got those bisectors on both sides, we need to do them on the other two corners. So to do that, I'm going to open up the paper, and then I'm going to engage the other diagonal crease of the square. And by doing that, and we flatten it down, here are the creases that we've already made down here. And now we're going to make the bisectors here. So we do that once again, right, left, front, and back. So if you want to just go ahead and cruise through those, you may. And what's also neat about this is that that angle bisector is going to meet at this intersection here, this vertex, where the other one met. So here we go. We're starting to get a bird base. I'm going to do it over here. bring that up here. This is so much fun. Cool. Rebecca, you're welcome. Yeah, I always love to include my teaching tips while I teach. Okay, I'm going to flip it like a pancake, front to back. Same thing. I'm going to roll that into place. There we go. And now the other side. Okay. Now I will just add, I mean, there's nothing wrong with using the traditional method of doing the petal folds. It's a perfectly acceptable way. But I do find you get more accuracy with this method. And I feel like this model does demand a bit more accuracy if you want nice, clean points on the lobes of the leaf. Okay, cool. Yes. Oh, Rebecca makes a very good point. Thank you for mentioning this, that yes, this does feel less intuitive, but you're right. We don't have to reverse as many creases when we go to collapse this into the bird base. You see, when I open it up, there we go. You can see that sort of star shape that we've made with these mountain creases here. And remember, we want the white to be on the outside. So to do that, this center point, we need to kind of pop that up, okay? We want this vertex to be kind of raised and coming upwards. And then as we do that, we can kind of start to push these flaps in. The only creases, or the crease segments, I should say, that we have to reverse are going to be, yes, these here on the inside of these four sides, right? So yeah, so you can see here, there are our four flaps for the bird base. And if we just kind of bring the whole model together, we can collapse the whole thing down, and it just kind of magically finds its way. That's so cool. And when we flatten it, Diane says she loves the pop. I know, it's really satisfying. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so the other reason I love this method is that now, you know, a bird base typically has these flaps pointing up, but we don't have that crease there yet. We typically make that crease when we do the petal fold. But here, all we have to do is just take this flap, and it will just automatically find its way to these two outside corners, again, yielding much greater accuracy for forming your bird base. And Peter, back to your point, you know, when you flip this up, you can see you almost still already have a slight gap here, which is perfect. That's just what we need, okay? So we've taken this flap. This is what I like to think of as the wing flap of the bird base. And so we're going to flip it up on the front. And then I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to flip it up on the back. Same deal. It just finds its way to these two side corners. Nice. Okay, cool. So there's our bird base. Ha! Okay, cool. So there we go. That's my sort of fancy way of making a bird base. I know some of my very skilled origami friends in the origami community always make their bird bases this way. It's just more accurate. All right, now that we've got our bird base, let's go on, and what I want you to do, okay, let's just put these down. Okay, so we're back here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit because the model has now shrunk down a bit. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, so here's what we're going to do next. We're going to take this front wing flap. We're going to flip it up, like so. And then down here, we've got these two kind of skinny flaps. And we're going to do something with each of these, but we can only really do one at a time. Okay, so let's just take one of them. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of flip it up and back. I'm just kind of exercising this crease here at the middle so that the flap just stands kind of straight up like this. Okay, and we're going to perform a squash fold. And we're going to do that by coming in from this side of the model. There's a little pocket here. Okay. Now, before you complete the squash fold, here's what I recommend you do. Just kind of push your finger in, push it all the way back, and start to squash the flap. And what you kind of need to do, because you've got a few layers here, you have to kind of help it out a little bit here and here. But start to squash the model, or the flap, I should say. But before you go all the way, what you want to do is you need to find some alignment. And you don't really have anything good to align it with on this side of the model. But if you flip it over to the other side, here, we can use this point and this crease line. And if we just line up that point on that crease line, then I like to just kind of use the table and just kind of flatten the whole thing down. And that will give us a nice centered flap. Very good. Okay, so now we have to do the other side. So I'm going to flip it back over here. And here is the other kind of skinny flap that we need to make a squash fold with. And we're going to separate the layers by coming in from the outside. And if you use your pointer finger and kind of find your way down to the bottom corner on the table. I should have mentioned that before, is that you're going to be kind of pushing on the table, pushing all the way in. And we're going to start to squash that flap, kind of work with these edges here, because those are creased edges and they don't want to like move quite as easily. But once you get it pretty close and you make sure that you're kind of radiating from that central point, we can flip the model over and then align that corner with the crease line that's just beneath it. So there's that. Okay. So now we have squashed those two flaps and we end up with this really nice four-pointed star shape. All right, cool. Now we're going to flip the model over to this side. And this next step is a little tricky, not because the move itself is difficult, but because of all of the layers of paper that we have to do this step through. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. If you pick up the model, notice here this corner. It's kind of on the inside. It's underneath this kite shape here. Okay, and if you kind of look inside here, in between this flap and here, we've got this point. And what we're going to do is make an inside reverse fold that's going to bring this point up to this center line, and it's going to come up to just behind where this top point is of the kite flap. Okay, so what you're going to do, and I do this in the air, and we're going to take this corner and bring it up so that it sits on the middle line. And you want to make sure that your crease is coming all the way from this center, this center point, or this intersection of creases right here, okay? So here's what that'll look like. I'm taking the side corner. I'm going to kind of open it up a little bit. I'm going to push it up. We're reversing this crease. So it's a valley crease right now looking on from the inside. That's going to become a mountain crease. So we're going to bring that up, and I'm going to bring that corner so that it sits on the center line of the flap behind it. And then once you get that up there, we're going to kind of push this part back the other way. Okay? So let me just kind of move that again, because this can be kind of confusing. We're going to take this, we're going to kind of push it up, reverse the crease, and the point will come up here. And so here's where we kind of run into issues, is that we've got all of these layers that we have to reverse through, and the paper doesn't really want to do that. So you just have to, I find I have to kind of like use my thumbnail, get in there, kind of really reinforce that crease. But that point is going to come up to the center line, and once it's there, then I will kind of flatten the paper on the table. Okay? And this is what it will look like on the inside. I'm just going to show it to you one more time, and then I'll do it on the other side. That side point, it's pushed up and in, and we've got alignment with both this point and that center line. And just do your best to reverse through all of those creases. Joe says he's falling in love with origami. Yes, couldn't be farther from the truth. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing from this corner. Okay, I'm going to reach in here in between those layers, put my thumb underneath it, make sure I'm going all the way inside to that vertex, and I'm going to kind of bring it up and bring that point to sit up on that center line. And then from here, this crease has to reverse into a valley fold. So it's going to come out this way. But ultimately, once that reverse fold is done, inside reverse fold, I should say, you can go on and squash it down. And this is what it will look like when you're done. Another thing I'll say now is that, if this is your first one, which I think most of you probably is, don't worry too much about it being super tidy and neat. I mean, just do your best. I know the first one that I made didn't look very clean. It was kind of crumply looking and it wasn't totally lined up. But just like anything, you just do it a few more times, practice it, and you'll get better at it. Okay, so hopefully everybody's doing okay here. So now we have our base for the maple leaf. And this, I'm looking at the back again here. I mean, this kite shape, this flap down here is the stem. This will ultimately become the stem of the leaf, okay? So when we flip it back around, we want to make sure that that corner or that flap stays oriented pointing down or towards you. And we've got these 3 points that are going to, first we're going to turn the paper inside out to reveal the color. Okay, so this is where the color starts to show. This is where the leaves turn color. And then we're going to get, from that center flap, we're going to get these 3 lobes of the leaf. And from these outside corners, we're going to get these lobes. And it's so cool and nifty how this works. But it can start to get a little strange here, but don't worry, you're in good hands. All right, so first we're going to focus on this corner, okay? And by corner, I mean here to here, all right? We're going to turn some of this paper inside out. Before we do, I want to draw your attention to a few landmarks and creases. Well, really, this vertex right here and this one creased edge here, okay? So we're going to focus on this vertex, and ultimately this crease here is going to extend out a little further. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm taking the top point and the side point, and I'm going to kind of pull them apart. Notice how I can just kind of pull them away from one another, like so. Okay, and so I get this long, like isosceles triangle. Okay, when I do that, let me just point out again, here is that vertex that I was referring to, and here is the creased edge. Okay? So as we pull that apart, we're going to open this pocket. Okay? Once again, here is the crease line that I was talking about, and in here is the vertex that I was talking about. And what we're going to do, we're going to take our pointer finger and we're going to go behind that vertex. And right now, this pocket, it's like kind of concave, like it's going inward, right? We're going to use our finger, we're going to get right behind that vertex, and we're going to kind of pop it forward a little bit. Now, we don't need to pop it very far, but what will start to happen is that this pocket is going to shift a little bit. And almost naturally, that one creased edge that I was referring to here that we're going to extend, what we want to happen now, once we kind of pop that in, we're going to extend that crease all the way to the outside. And here's what it will look like when it's done. When I was doing this earlier, excuse me, not when I was doing it earlier, when I did this the very first time, when I was learning it from the diagram, I definitely kind of struggled with this part. But once you get the hang of it, it goes really smoothly. It's pretty neat how well it works. The paper just kind of knows what to do. Okay? So what I'm going to do here, now I'm going to do the same thing on this. We'll call this a quadrant. Thank you, Rebecca. That was a good suggestion. This quadrant here, same thing. I'm going to go slow. But I'll point out, there's our vertex. Here's the kind of the crease line that we're going to, eventually extend all the way out like we did here. So I'm going to kind of pull that apart. So there's my triangle. I'm going to open the pocket. And my vertex is right here. So I want to go behind it. And I'm going to pop it forward. And then as I pop it forward, it starts to go this way. And you can see that the paper just wants to kind of continue its way up here. Another thing to look for, these edges at the top here should line up with one another. Okay, so we just kind of extend that crease all the way up. And there we go. All right, we're starting to see some fall colors. All right. So I must add that there is a delay from what I can see in the chat and what I'm actually doing here live. So my apologies if anybody's like, oh, help, I'm stuck, or can you explain this better? I'm keeping an eye on the chat. You see, I keep looking over here because I'm trying to make sure I don't leave anybody behind. But again, like if you're watching on YouTube, you can scrub, you can go backwards, watch it again if you need to, okay? Okay, now we're gonna do some more inside out stuff where we're gonna turn these two flaps inside out, okay? So before I do that, I'm just going to kind of lift this up so you can see and get a better sense. Thank you. Julie says, don't leave us behind. Thanks, Julie. Okay, so there's that and that. So here we're going to turn these flaps inside out. Don't worry, Julie, I won't leave you all behind. We're going to approach this similarly to how we did the last one, but it's a little different, okay? But we're going to use the same vertex here and here. We're going to do like a similar thing where we kind of pop it inside out. Res9695 said that their base just completely fell apart. I know, I understand. I think that probably happened to me too. If you want, just kind of try to make your way back to the bird base if you can. And I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the puns that keep showing up in the chat. And hopefully you can get back here And again, you can pause, go back, because I see you're watching on YouTube. Oh no, Julie says, it's a mid-leaf crisis. And Joe says, this is an origami treat. Origami treat. Okay, let's go. All right, here we go. So we're going to turn these flaps inside out. And we're going to approach it in the same way where we're going to kind of pull the layers apart, or pull these two flaps apart from one another to get that long, that short, well, it's short and wide isosceles triangle. And once again, we're going to look in the pocket of that flap, okay? So let me just do that one more time. I'm going to be working on this quadrant here. I'm going to kind of rotate like this so that I can do the same thing where I kind of open it up this way. So I'm going to be doing the work over here. I open the pocket, and if I look inside here, there's my vertex, okay? But we end up with a, you see there's this sort of arrow shape here, okay? We're going to follow that arrow shape, and basically those are the creases that make that flap that I was pointing out. So if we go to that vertex, get underneath it, use whatever finger to kind of pop it up, it's going to go like this. And what you're going to have to do now is reverse this valley crease here and this valley crease here. And we're going to, of course, reverse those into mountain creases, okay? And the paper will just kind of find its way. We're not making any new creases here, all right? So I've got that kind of started. Now, notice how this part kind of opened up. It tends to do that, but we want it to come back, kind of close up. But as we do that, if we reverse those creases, there we go. Now the paper is turned inside out. Joe says, let's not pile on here. I mean, it is a leaf pile, right? I've got my own leaf pile here. Okay, and so that is the end result. Of course, I'm going to do it again on this side. So I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to kind of rotate it so I can open it up this way. The vertex I'm focusing on is right here. I'm going to open the pocket. And there it is. There's that cool looking arrow shape, arrowhead here. Looks like the arrow for like a cursor pointer on a computer. And we're going to get behind that vertex. And we're just going to kind of pop it up ever so slightly. And when you do that, these valley creases they're like trying to reverse themselves. So you can just kind of let them do their thing, but you do have to help them along a little bit. Kind of get those to reverse, okay? So here we've reversed this part here. And then down here, we're going to close this back up, pinch this flap here, bring it down. And now we have successfully turned the paper inside out, and at least enough so that we get all the color that we need for the leaf part, and then eventually we will turn this big white flap into a stem. There's a lot of connections we can make between origami and STEM. All right, so here we go. How's everybody doing? I know that was definitely the trickiest part of the model. I mean, it's easy for the paper to kind of explode on you, and not in a very fun and satisfying way. It just kind of opens up. But again, just keep practicing it. Go back, rewatch it, and you'll start to get the hang of it, hopefully. Okay, now I want to draw your attention, by drawing with this origami pencil, to these valley creases. We've got a valley crease here and a valley crease here. And of course, everything that we do from here on out, we're going to do on each side, because we're going to have bilateral symmetry here, right? Oh good, Res 9695 says that they got one side. Good, I'm so happy to hear that. Okay, so we've got this valley fold that we're going to engage. And you want to make sure that you engage that valley fold all the way down to this edge. And as that comes over, this paper kind of pulls over and it wants to make a squash fold. My favorite origami move. I love squash folds. They're so fun and satisfying. Okay, so we're going to kind of pull that over. And when we squash the paper, we want to try to make our crease connect with this top point. Another thing that happens, which is really nice and satisfying, is that this raw edge of the paper will line up with this edge beneath it. So we're going to pull that down. We make sure that squash fold finds its way to this top corner here. And notice I did the same thing I did when I was doing my angle bisectors. I kind of graze that corner. I don't commit to it all at once. I'm just kind of like easing my way into that squash fold. Just kind of, you know, on all those corners there, just kind of lightly kind of graze them until you're happy with the alignment, and then you can come in with some sharper creases. Okay. Squash folds. Okay, let's do the same thing on this side. We're going to take this valley fold and make sure it's coming all the way down. It's engaging all the way down to this vertex here, right? So we kind of swing that over. We make sure our crease is connecting with this top corner and just kind of looking to see that this raw edge is lining up with the white edge that's behind it. And we make our squash fold. Yay. All right, now, well, we've got some more white showing again. Hey, we don't want that, so let's do something about that. Fortunately, it's really easy to take care of. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of reverse this flap so that now it goes behind, okay? So we're reversing that valley crease here, kind of opening it up, and we're going to kind of push this behind the model. And once we reverse that valley crease into a mounting crease, the paper just knows what to do. All the creases are already there, and then we flatten it. Rebecca says she's switching to YouTube so she can back up. Yeah, no, I totally get it. And Brent, I'm sorry that your leaf turned into a squash blossom. Keep trying. You'll get it next time. All right, so let's reverse this as well. We're just going to open it up, kind of pull the layer out, and we're going to reverse that valley crease to a mountain, and push that in, and there we go. And then now we've got the makings for, we've got the lobe at the top and then the two here. Oh good, Brent says he's fine. I'm glad to hear that. All right, now I am going to draw on the paper a little bit because I want to draw your attention, literally, to these two mounting creases that are here on the back side of the model. Okay, we've already got these crease segments, now, but it only goes from this point to here. Now what's pretty nifty here is that that also follows this edge. What we're going to do now is we want to, well, we are going to bisect this angle of this lobe here, and what's going to happen is we're going to extend this crease all the way down, and it should more or less connect with this corner down here, okay? Now we've already got it here. We're just going to kind of let it extend down here. Now the one tricky aspect of this step is that when we are folding this over, I mean, we've already got the crease up here. We've got some nice alignment, but down here the model is kind of thick because of this corner of this little kite shape here, okay? So we do have to fold through some kind of a thick part of that layer. Okay, so just be mindful of that. But if you just kind of, you know, get it started up here, kind of find your way down, make sure the paper kind of stays tight. And if you kind of open it up, you can also kind of guide it. I mean, what I find the crease does when I kind of meander. In fact, it's doing that on me right now. So I'm going to just, you know, really kind of focus on this vertex here so that I can kind of try to make that go through those layers in a nice straight line right down here. And there we go. All right. We'll leave that folded, but I just want to show you, what, again, what we've done here. And yeah, mine got pretty close to that corner. Not exactly, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. It'll be fine. So we fold that over like so. And then now we're going to create another angle bisector with this corner here by bringing this raw edge over to this creased edge. So I'm going to kind of turn the paper a little bit so I can approach this like so, bringing that raw edge over to meet this creased edge. Treat my bisectors just like my other ones. Kind of ease it into place. And there we go. Okay. Now I'm going to keep working on this side until I'm done with this side, and then we'll go and repeat all the steps on the other side. So don't worry about this side yet. We'll just keep going over here. Okay, so we just did 2 angle bisectors. Now I want to draw your attention to an existing crease line. It's kind of hard to see it. Maybe I can get the light to catch it a little bit, but I'll just use the paper pencil to draw your attention to this valley crease that goes from about here to this point. Okay? What we're going to do, we're going to grab all the layers here of that flap from this corner down here, and we're just going to kind of pinch those together, and we want to just engage that valley crease. Basically what we're doing, we're trying to reflect that crease so that it shows up on the layer underneath it. So if I kind of pinch those layers together, fold that corner out, there we go. Okay, and this is a pre-crease, so once you have folded that flap, you can unfold and get ready for the next step. Okay. Now let's see here. All right, yeah, cool. So this is a cool little, I think you call it a swivel. But what we're going to do, we're going to kind of pivot the flap, and we're going to pivot at this point right here. And we've already got most of the creases that we need for this, at least the main ones that we need. We're going to reverse that valley crease that we just folded on. We want this to reverse into a mountain fold during this step. So what that looks like is if you kind of, I'm going to kind of anchor it there at that pivot point, the end of that crease. I'm going to reverse that valley crease, and I'm going to let this kind of come up, and it's just going to kind of find its way and stick out like so. And I'll do that again, so just so you can see it, just in case you need to see it again. So here we are. There's the valley crease that we're going to reverse, that one that we just kind of reinforced. We're going to pivot, kind of pull this out, and then flatten it down, and that we're going to have a crease that goes down to this corner and out to this point. Ooh, we're starting to get another lobe. Hello. Oh, geez. Okay, now, once we've got that sticking out here, let's kind of turn the paper over. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to free that corner. I mean, this corner that is now, on the other side, it's kind of stuck inside here. We're going to pull it out because we don't need the paper to be quite so thick over here, particularly when we're making the stem. So what we're going to do is, if you kind of look at the leaf from the side, kind of open it up a little bit, you see that there's like a pocket. So we're going to free that trapped paper. We're going to kind of go open behind it. We're going to pull it out a little bit, and without kind of undoing what we just did, we're going to let that flatten. So from the back, you see now that corner is free, okay? And we can just kind of let the paper do its thing. If you put it on the table especially and flatten it, that trapped paper will just kind of find its way out, and we want to flatten that and crease that. Okay. So now, this is what it looks like from this side. We've got this paper hanging out here over here. But now we want to hide it again, but so basically we're going to tuck it back in the model without tucking the corner in that we just released. And we've already got all the creases that we need to do that. So we're basically going to take this point. It's kind of like a sink, I guess. It's also just kind of like an inside reverse fold, so, which are kind of the same. So we're just going to take this edge, we're going to push that in. And as we're doing that, if we're looking at it from the side, it kind of looks like this. Okay? And this mountain crease in the middle gets reversed into a valley crease as it makes its way inside the model. And then we go back to what we had just a moment ago. Kind of flatten that. And once again, we've now freed this corner from being stuck inside the model. So it's not quite so thick at that corner, right? All right, so now this is a pretty nifty little thing too. This model is full of so many nifty things. We're going to take this corner here, and if we just kind of like pull the flap open, we can hide this corner underneath this central flap. So I'm going to pull that open and just kind of just slide the layers behind. We're just rearranging the layers a little bit. And there we go. Okay, we're getting there. I know this model is a little bit of a slog. I mean, particularly as you're learning it and as I'm teaching it. But once you get the hang of it, it goes pretty quick. All right, so we got to repeat those steps on this side. So once again, we've got an existing crease here, and we're going to kind of fold along that existing crease so that we bisect this angle at the top. The bisector's already started, and as we make our way down, we want to try to make sure that we connect this crease with this corner here. So just do your best. Don't worry about it being perfect. I'm going to kind of pick the paper up and do it this way, so I can really focus on that thick corner. Okay. Cool. And then, yeah, I know, right? Brent says that was so cool. I couldn't agree more. Joe says this origami is a leaf of faith. Okay, now let's bisect this corner up here by taking this raw edge of this flap over to this creased edge here. So I'm going to bring that down like so. Oop. And of course, you can move your paper around however you need to fold it properly. All right. Now I'm going to find that existing valley crease on this layer here. And I'm going to hold those layers together, that corner. And I'm just going to fold up along the existing valley crease through all those layers so I can get that crease line behind it. There is a way to do this without making the pre-crease. Like once you get good at this and you kind of know where to go, you can. But I don't know. I think it's worth like taking the extra time to put the pre-creases in for some of these steps. I think it just goes a little bit smoother in the end. But of course, you can fold it however you like once you get the hang of it. Now here's our pivot point here, and we're going to kind of take this corner down here, and we're going to let it kind of come upward. That works really nice. If you just kind of anchor it just above that vertex, grab this point and just kind of let it pivot. We do get a new crease right inside here, but if you just use the existing creases, the paper just finds its own way. And that is always so nice when it does that. Okay. And now let's get that trapped corner out from in here. So if you look at it from the side, you can see in there, you're going to reach your finger in there and pull that out. There's kind of a pocket, okay? I'm going to pull that out and then make sure the paper kind of goes back the way we had it. Whoop. Got to try that again. There we go. Pull that out, and once that's pulled out, then we can go ahead and flatten it on the table from the back. And then we can take this point and we're going to basically sink it in, or in other words, we're going to make an inside reverse fold to hide this part of the paper here. So if you open it up, look at it from the side, you can kind of spread that open and reverse that mountain crease into a valley crease. Pop it in there and flatten it. And there we go. And then we'll hide this corner behind the center flap by pulling that out, tucking it behind. And there we go. Now it looks like a Super Saiyan. Any Dragon Ball Z fans out there? It's an anime character, in case you weren't familiar. Okay, I'm not a Dragon Ball Z fan, but I'm aware. I know about it. As you know, many origami enthusiasts do know a little bit about anime. Okay, cool. So now we're almost done. Now we still have a few more points of the lobe here, like these last two lobes, but we're not going to do that yet. We're going to focus on the stem now. It's again origami and stem. A lot of connections, and we're going to take the paper. We're going to flip it like a pancake to the back side, and we're going to use the existing hinge that we did much earlier when we formed our bird base, and we're going to flip that up. All right? And we are going to create a rabbit ear. I love rabbit ears, and you'll see why in just a second. Now, this isn't a, we are not, now a lot of people jump in, they think, oh, we're going to bisect these angles. No, we're not going to do that. Actually, what we're going to do, if I pull this down for a second, notice we've got these edges here and here, okay? Here and here. We are going to use those as our guideline. So we're going to make a crease that connects from this corner, and if I'm going to send it over to this side first, so I'm going to just send it over here, and I'm just going to kind of find the alignment with that edge, make sure it's hitting this vertex here at this corner, and I'm going to kind of pinch that fold into place. Oh, wow. Hello from Tunisia. Welcome. All right, cool. So we make that crease, and we don't actually have to go all the way up, but it doesn't matter. I mean, this is the back of the model. We're not going to see this anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and crease all the way up that edge. Okay, again, we're following this line here. And then we unfold that, and now we have to go to the other side. Same deal. Fold it down, find that edge, line it up, find the corner, and just kind of pinch it into place. And then we unfold that, and now we have the makings for a rabbit ear. The reason I love rabbit ears is because they really look like rabbit ears. So check this out. So now if we engage these two creases at the same time, and they're all valley creases. We have a valley crease here, and we have a valley crease up the middle. But if you kind of engage both of those sorry, they're not bisectors, both of those folds like so, look at that. It's a rabbit ear. It looks just like one. Okay, so we're going to bring that in, and we're going to pinch it. And what we're going to do is we're going to send that rabbit ear to one side or the other. And it doesn't matter which side we go to. Just pick a side. I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to go to the right, okay? So I'm going to bring that, because it's just kind of wanting to go that way anyhow. And so we set that down flat. And now we're sticking to one side. And you don't need to like exercise it to send it to the other side. You know, it's like that's not necessary here. But now, while we do have bilateral symmetry through this whole model, this is where we get just a little bit of asymmetry. But it's on the back, and you don't see it from the front anyways. But here's what we're going to do. So we've narrowed that flap, so it's not quite as wide as it was before. So now we need to get it back down here from up here. So, I mean, if you kind of pull it down this way, notice it doesn't really give you a very large stem. But we can make that stick down even farther. So here's what we're going to do. We want to fold through. I'm going to kind of draw the line like where the crease happens. It kind of goes through here. But basically what you're trying to do is to pull this flap down from the side through all these layers, and you want to center it in the middle of that gap. And what you can do, you can basically make this fold come all the way down to this corner, okay? And it's only doing that on one side. I'm bringing it from one side, I'm bringing it down to the middle, and you can get that crease to come all the way to here, and it kind of goes across like that. And you know, there's no like exact placement for this, but that allows for a lot more of that stem to stick out from the bottom, which is definitely what we want. Okay, so I know it's kind of thick here. We get a little bit of asymmetry, but big deal. It's the back of the model. No one's gonna care. Well, I don't care. Anyway, all right, so there we go. So that's the stem. And then we flip it over. Haha, and there it is, looking good. Okay, and we just have a few simple folds left for these last two lobes at the bottom, and then we are done. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to flip the leaf upside down so that the stem is pointing away from myself. And I want to draw your attention. I'm going to draw in this here. Literally draw your attention to those two vertices. There are some creases that intersect one another at those 2 points, okay? Those are going to be landmarks for us. I'm also going to point out this edge right where it meets the stem. So right in here and here, okay? These next two folds are what Michael LaFosse often refers to as rat folds. And you might be saying, James, we're folding leaves. Why are we talking about rats? Well, rat is an acronym, stands for right about there. And I tell you, origami is chock full of rat folds. We're just kind of making judgment calls. Or in other words, some people might say you fold to taste, all right? But we do have like some pretty good landmarks here that we can use, and you don't have to use them. Really, this really isn't much of a rat fold because the landmarks are pretty clear. But again, it doesn't have to be exact. But what I'm going to do is basically try to connect a line from those 2 points. But I kind of like to have a little bit more in this lobe. So actually, I like to go a little bit to this side of that point. So I'm going to do a mountain fold, and I'm going to connect from here. And I like to go just beneath that, but that's just my preference because I want this to be a little bit bigger. If you went a little farther, it wouldn't be quite as big. And you could do it that way too if you want. Fold to taste. So I like to go just a little bit below. This is my personal preference. I'm not too far. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the other side as well while we're at it. And I'm going to pinch the mountain fold in, you know. I'm folding in the air. There we go. Okay. And then we flip the model to the other side. And now we are going to, the model's getting kind of small here. We're going to make 2 creases that radiate from this same corner here that we were talking about before, but we're on the other side here. Basically, we just want this point to stick out below a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this one on the right first. I'm going to fold this down. This is also kind of a rat fold. I'm connecting the crease with this vertex. And on the other end, you know, depending on how far down you want it to stick, I kind of go a little bit. I usually go like, I'm kind of close to this little gap here, but you know, it doesn't matter. So there we go. And the model is really thick right now, so I'm gonna put it down and really crease that hard. And then if we just peek on the other side real quick, you see that lobe sticks out a little bit. So you know, you can kind of change the angle and the size of that with this fold. So once again, I'm going to make a crease that connects to this vertex, kind of fold it down, let it stick out a little bit. Here we go. and flip it over. Voila! There you have it. Yuankai Zhang's Maple Leaf version 2. I should have mentioned that before. It's his second version. And this model has a lot of layers stacked in it, and it does want to kind of open up a little bit. And what I found, it actually works just like regular leaves that you might collect, you want to save. You can stick them in between like books or just put something heavy on top of them, and they do kind of flatten out pretty nicely, right? So, all right, there you go. Thank you all for tuning in. Now if you want to hear what's coming up next, here it is. And I just kind of decided this right before I came online here. I went live here. All right, so here we go. So next live stream is going to be on December 1st at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's noon for those of us here in the Eastern Time Zone, 9 a.m. for those of you on the Pacific. And I would like to do a workshop on Sonobe units. Now, Sonobe units are very common modular, been around forever. They're very versatile though, but I want to explore some different things that we can do with Sonobe units, particularly using this one variation where you get this nifty color change. And of course, you can use the Sonobe unit to make a wide variety of solids and other forms. My good buddy Leo out there has come up with a lot of his own variations of this. He's shown me a lot of ones that I never thought of doing, which I think are so cool. But I can also show you a way that you can make a little, like an ornament, or just kind of like a, you can hang it on your rearview mirror of your car or whatever. I don't know if you can hear, there's a little bell inside of this one. So that was cool. But we can also make this other version of the hexahedron that kind of has like little fins that stick out from it. And I just love the way this looks with the duo color paper. It looks really good black and white. Here's another. Well, this has, oh yeah, there's the string. Yeah, this has some string on it too. But then we could also make a cube out of it that looks really interesting. And you can, switch up different colors. So for this workshop, you're going to need a lot of sheets of paper. At minimum 3, because you can make this with just 3 sheets, okay? And that's where we will start. But then 6 is nice because then you can make make this form or the cube. But of course, we can go on up from there, okay? So again, December 1st, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. And once again, if you join the email list at foldspacesstudio.com, scroll to the bottom, you'll get all email updates. And please, again, if you want to help support my YouTube channel, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Of course, a lot of you are on YouTube already, but you can find that by searching for Fold Space Origami Studio. Find me on Instagram at Mr. James Peak and at Fold Space Origami. And check me out on my website, foldspacesstudio.com. Cool. Well, I had so much fun folding with you all. Those of you who are chiming in the chat, yes, you're so welcome. Thank you all. Please post your leaves and tag me if you think of it or if you can. It was so good to see all of you out there again. I'm so excited to be back here online teaching classes again. And Brent says, yes, it was easier than trying through the PDF. You're so welcome for this lesson, Brent. So glad you could make it. Joe says, this was so mulch fun. Joe had a lot of really good puns today. Thank you. I'm a punny kind of guy, so I really appreciated all of those. So yeah, cool. Julie, thanks for folding with us. You're right, this would be really cool to paint. Like, yeah, you could make some really cool looking leaves if you paint the paper ahead of time. Wow. So Yuankai has a post on his Instagram feed of a leaf that was folded with some really beautiful paper. So go check that out. Also give Yuankai a follow on Instagram if you are on Instagram. Tim, again, yeah, thanks for joining us. Oh, and Karen, yes. Hi, Karen. Cool. Ayumi, good to see you again, too. And it was really good seeing you at Peacock as well. Joanne, you're so welcome. Deb, thank you. I'm glad you could be here. Trisha, yes, this was a great class to fall for. I agree. Y'all are so sweet. Okay, cool. Good. Thanks, Edwina. Grace. All right. Yeah, Trisha, I'm raking in the compliments. Let's keep them coming. Why stop now? Just keep going. Oh my goodness. Okay, wow. Yeah, that was a long class. I know the next one won't be quite as long. But yeah, again, I was obsessed. I've been obsessed with this model. I wanted to share it, and I'd love to see how your leaves turned out. So thanks again for folding, and I'm going to sign off now. You'll have a good rest of your evening, day, whatever, and I'll see you at the next one on December 1st, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye.